Before we start the video, let me tell you guys something. This is a whole new system. As a lot of you know, but not all of you know, you don't save pretty much any of your wiring harness. You can take your factory harness and retain it just as it was from the factory. You can pin everything out that you need individually, meaning running new wire. You don't have to cut anything on your harness, but it does make life a lot easier to be able to do that. All right, so up here, do not fear these connectors. I know this looks like a rat's nest. We're gonna clean all this up. Do not fear these. You'll see this later on in the video. So these are actually super simple. All right, guys, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get to the video. Part 2, we'll cover firing the car up. All right, this is it, guys. We're gonna go ahead and try to bust off the Calypso clone. As you can see, we got a hot mess. This video kind of jumped around, right? I did some wiring kind of behind the scenes. Don't worry. This is actually a huge benefit to you because now I can go back and show you everything. I know some of your concerns. I know some of the issues, some of the fears, if you will. I had them as well. This really was not that hard of an install. So let's go ahead and see if we can get the car running, and then I'll come back in and start explaining what I did with the wiring. This hot mess right here. Okay, let's go ahead and try it. Did you hear that?
Let's see if we can give it a little throttle.
Okay, well, it starts. Doesn't sound very good though. Maybe it's just in the tune. Like I said, this is just all with the handheld. The idler control has not been set yet. With all that being said, I'm gonna call this a success. And now what we gotta do is go in and explain to you guys what all these wires do and why I ran them the way that I did.
So I want to take a second before we go any further in the video and talk to you guys about how the car ran. Like, obviously I wasn't very happy with it. Come to find out, we had another problem. It wasn't anything to do with wiring or anything like that. So I'll cover that in the next video. But for now, just know that all the wiring was good on the car and we do have it straightened out. We'll cover it later. So guys, let's go ahead and get back to the video.
All right, so first off, let's talk about the two wires that you have in the car with you. They're two long wires. One is a green wire and one is a red. The green wire is gonna go back up behind your dash, the way I did it anyway, and down. And what you're gonna do is cut your fuel pump relay wire right here, this one, and you're just gonna add this into it. This goes straight back to your Terminator X. This has its own relay over here. So what that's gonna do is tell your fuel pumps, you know, when to run, all that type stuff. Your other wire, your red wire, is gonna come up through here. It's a red and white wire. And the best thing to do is go get one of these ATA circuits. You can pick one up from AutoZone or something like that. Or just find yourself a switched 12-volt wire. What that means is when you switch the key to the accessory position and past, it stays at 12 volts, right? Because some cycle on and off. So just make sure that is a switched 12-volt signal. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just look it up. That wire does not necessarily have to stay in the cabin of the car with you. You can wire that thing up anywhere you want to. If you choose to bring it out here and find 12 volts, 12 volts is 12 volts, right? As long as it's 12 volt switched, meaning, like I said, it stays on through the key cycle. I thought I was gonna be doing you guys a great service by me going ahead and doing all of my wiring and then coming out here and showing you guys where it all went. Well, obviously looking at it now, you're not gonna know which wire is what. So I do apologize for that. But with that being said, I do believe if you have one of these in your hands and you're watching this video, you will understand where these connections go. So you have really two harnesses that come through. You have your main harness, which has, you know, the bulk of all the wires attached to it. I showed you guys that in the last video. And you have a smaller harness that comes through, which is this harness right here. This little harness. It's gonna come around. And what that thing requires is 12 volt power here and then a ground. So as you can see, this harness says connect directly to battery. So that's what you're gonna do with it, okay? So that's gonna be the first connection that you really need to make. Then you're going to notice that there's a red wire, and you can see the remnants of it right here. It's going to be a long red wire that just kind of hangs out of your harness that doesn't really go anywhere, right? That wire also is going to have to come over here. So all I did was just kind of tuck it up through this loom and bring it around. That's going to also connect to your battery as well. So far we've got your power harness that comes through and connects to the battery, and we also have that one loose red wire. Now you're gonna have a white wire that's also over here, and I just cut it off. You can see right here, there's a little bit of it right there. That wire right there, you can wrap it up, fold it up. I just snipped it off because I'm not gonna use it. Let's talk next about your sensors. How do you get your factory gauges in your car to work? If you don't know, the Terminator X doesn't have any capabilities of running your factory gauges. All of that is handled through these pins right here. So, now what you're gonna notice is I have some extra wires left right here. I did that because I wasn't sure what I was gonna need, right? Once I figured out what I was gonna need and what I didn't need, I just rolled it up. And you're gonna notice here, I'm only using 2 wires, the red and the white wire, okay? So in this black connection right here, all I did was I cut it off of that harness. So I cut it off and I left a decent amount of wire. I come in here, I plugged it in. Same thing with the gray connector. I cut it off of the main harness too. And now what I have is the factory connector with the factory wires coming off of it, probably about this long. Then I went over and I got my connector here. See my connector for my gauge? What I did was just cut it back off of that harness over there. I just cut it back as far as I could. I think I have about that much of the wire. That is gonna be it's gonna be your red wire right there. So all you have to do is, if you need to lengthen it out, do whatever you need to do, bring it back over here and match it up to your red wire. Oil pressure, same thing. I just cut that connector off of my old harness. As you can see, it is a white and red wire. What did I do? Just come over here, matched it up to that. Same thing on your coil. You take your factory plug here and you cut it off of that harness. Leave yourself as much wire as you can. Come over here, find your other connector. It's gonna be your gray connector here. And you match the colors up. So you find the wire that matches the color and you tie it into that. Same thing on the negative side. And that is gonna allow all of your gauges to work. And that's pretty much it under the hood. That's all you're gonna need to do. I just wanted to come out here, slow this down as best as I could. This is really hard to explain. There are some good videos out there with diagrams to show you kind of how everything goes. Guys, take your time with this. Watch this a few times. It'll all make sense. When it clicks with you, it'll click. Trust me, it's not that big of a deal. Your tachometer wire, so that's gonna be this white wire right here that comes out of your TFI module up front. All this does is plug into the negative side of your coil. That's all this does. I just tapped it back into that green wire, back up in there. You will, if you're gonna be running boost, you will have to repin this. There are a few things left though for me to figure out, and that's gonna be wiring up my AC compressor. This is not a hard job. You just have to wrap your head around it and you have to break it down real simple. Like, all these wires do get confusing. I promise you, I understand, I'm with you, but it's not that big of a deal. Guys, we got the Calypso clone running. Although it doesn't run that good, that's all right. We're gonna tune this thing. We're gonna get it running right. I'll catch you guys in the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.